Salutations, my fellow alkaline kings and queens. So today I am going to turn these simple ingredients into a Dr. Sebi approved electric yummy appetizer. I'm going to start by seasoning some king mushrooms in a cast iron skillet, and I'm going to bake them in the oven at 350 degrees until they are golden brown. While those are in the oven, I am now messing around with a little bit of spelt flour. I am pouring hot water into the spelt flour, mixing a little and pouring a little bit along as I go. Now, this recipe was completely off the top of the head. I just started thinking about crab rangoons, and I said, well, let me see what I can do. So as I'm adding the water to the dough, I'm feeling for the consistency, and I want a consistency that is kind of firm but still soft. Now, once I get finished mixing this dough, I'm going to set the dough to the side. I'm going to cover it, set it to the side, and let it rest while I work on the cream cheese filling. I soaked some walnuts and some pumpkin seeds for about 4 hours, and just to get them soft. And now that they are soaked and soft, I'm going to strain them away from the water and put them into a blender. So now that I've got the walnuts and the pumpkin seeds going, I'm adding a half a cup of coconut milk. And I'm adding it extremely slow because I'm watching for the consistency. I don't want this to become too runny. I want it to stay very thick. So into the blender, I also added a teaspoon of sea salt, a teaspoon of onion powder, and a tablespoon of agave nectar. After I made this recipe again, I also added in about 2 teaspoons of tamarind concentrate, and I found that it really added to the flavor a lot. So now I am just chopping up some green onion so that I can add them into our cream cheese. Give it a quick little mix and set it to the side. Now look at these king shrooms. They look so good. I could really just add some barbecue sauce and put it on the side of some mac and cheese and some greens and call it a night, but I've got a plan going here. So I'm taking my fork and I'm just shredding the meat of the mushroom. Just shredding it. I don't want the pieces to be so uniform in this recipe. I want it to be very meaty. Once that's done, I'm going to turn my mushrooms out into a chopping board, and now I'm giving it another rough chop. I don't want consistent pieces. I want everything to be chunky, meaty, shredded. I mean, this really looks like chicken right here, right now. Once the shrooms are all chopped up, I'm adding the shrooms into our cream cheese and green onion mix as well. So that ball of dough that we just left sitting there, we're going to work with that now. Now that we've got our walnut cheese in the fridge waiting on us to fix the wonton wrappers. I'm rolling out the dough as thin as I possibly can, but not too thin because I want them to be able to hold up during the cooking process. You see how some of the dough got stuck? So I'm just using my knife with some of the free flour that is there on the counter, and I am moving it around and using it so that I can scrape up the dough without putting holes in it. Working with 1/2 at a time, I'm trimming the edges so that I can get uniform square pieces of dough for our wonton wrappers. I'm cutting the dough so that I get 12 4x4 squares. They need to be squares. They can't be lopsided because that's going to make the folding harder. While we're working with the dough, it can get really sticky, so I'm using a lot of extra flour in between the layers so that they don't get stuck together while we work. Now I am coating the squares with water. I'm doing them one at a time as I work. So I'm going to coat the square with water, and then I am going to add in our cream cheese filling. I'm adding about 2 teaspoons to each square. That way it will not squeeze out during the cooking process. Now for the fun part, folding. So as you fold, you want to envision bringing all the corners up to the top of the wonton. You want to bring the corners up together and press the sides of the squares together. That's why it's important that it is a square so that it works in uniform. And you see me here just pressing to make sure that it is sealed. So let's try it again. I'm coating the whole side with water. Now you can just do the edges, but I like to do the entire wonton. I'm coating the whole thing with water. And then once that is done, I'm going to go back to grabbing the sides, grabbing the corners, bringing them together, slowly bringing them together on each side and pressing them in together on each side and ensuring that the Rangoon is sealed. So many of us are extremely busy individuals. I get that. This pastry part can become quite tedious and it might make you want to give up on your goals. So please don't do that. I found some pastry at the Asian market that was not so bad. No, it is not the best. No, it is not as good as if you make the pastries yourself. But it is way better than if you were to just go out and blow your whole way of living and just go get the cheese-filled, peanut fried crab rangoons from the Chinese food place. So just stick with your goals and cut corners if you have to, when you have to. So the cream cheese that I did not use this time, I'm putting it in a Ziploc bag to go in the freezer for later use. So now I am playing around with how I'm going to create the red dipping sauce. I tried messing around with a prickly pear a little bit. It tastes okay. But the consistency of it was not what I wanted. So I decided, once I finished playing around with the prickly pear juice, I just drank it. And then I started messing around with these achiote seeds. So I went with the achiote seeds for this recipe, and I blended up some mango to replace the traditionally used pineapple. So once I cooked the achiote seeds down with a little bit of water, traditionally oil is used, but I didn't want to add more oil because I'm frying these wontons. So I used water. I cooked them down a little bit, let them simmer, and then once I got them down where I was withdrawing some of the red color, I added in the mango juice. And let me tell you, this was some kind of good. You need to strain the seeds away because they stay hard, but even the achiote seeds have a nice sweetness to them. So the achiote along with the mango was just the right sweetness for me. But if it's not for you, you might want to add a little bit of agave nectar. So look at that, we got our rangoons all done up. We're going to put them into the grapeseed oil. I've also baked some as well so that you can see the difference. So some of you might try this recipe with the store-bought wonton wrappers, and that's perfectly fine. Make sure that what you're doing you feel good about. That's the key. Remember, the thoughts you keep and the vibration you give is the key to reaching your goals. I tried baking mine again since this attempt, and they turn out much better when you bake them if you would brush a thin layer of grapeseed oil on them, and that helps to really brown them and hold them together. I tasted them all, of course, and my favorite was the spelt fried. Yes, they were so good. So there you have it, vegan, electric, alkaline crab rangoons. I hope you all enjoyed this video and that it has been helpful on your journey, and I will see you all on the next one. Until then, vibrate love, and as always, vibrate well.